It's Wednesday, November 27. Good afternoon. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. An appeal is being made for the Ministry of Education to provide more psychological support for teachers. The Jamaica Association of Guidance Counselors revealed that the Jamaica Teachers Association only has one psychologist to serve all teachers. The details in this report.
Speaking on TVJ Smile Jamaica on Wednesday, President-elect of the Jamaica Association of Guidance Counselors in Education, Richard Skyer, says teachers operate in a stressful environment and need an outlet. The comments come in light of the recent incident at Pembroke Hall High School. Mr. Skyer says the organization has not yet reached out to the Ministry of Education.
We're hoping that the ministry, they're aware of what's happening, so we are making the appeal now that that type of intervention is necessary. We need more psychologists in the school to support our teachers. The guidance counselors alone are not able to do it. We really need additional support. So this unfortunate incident, we're hoping that we will see it as a learning moment and see the need for the help that the teachers are crying out for.
Meanwhile, interim president of the National Parent-Teacher Association of Jamaica, NPTAJ, Mr. Harris Dillon, says the isolated incident at Pembroke Hall High School represents what is happening in the wider society. Mrs. Harris Dillon says the NPTAJ is focused on working with the various stakeholders to managing stress-related problems in the education system. She says the association has had dialogue with the JTA and will seek to engage the Students' Association.
We'll be trying to make some parenting workshops to deal with stress management, anger management, because stress has been affecting many of our parents for quite some time. And yes, teachers are held at the highest standard ever possible for a professional. And they are the ones that are responsible for grooming the future generation to take over in the workplace. So they are under a lot of pressure, and we understand that.
Children's advocate Dan Gordon Harrison has called for teachers to be given resources to help them cope with the pressures of the classroom. The teacher involved in the incident at Pembroke Hall High School has been sent on leave. Her case was on Monday referred to the Personnel Committee of the School's Board of Management. Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
No roads, no votes. It's the warning from residents and business operators in Alligator Pond, Manchester, who say the deplorable road conditions is costing them dearly. They staged a protest earlier this week, voicing their grouses.
We're tired of this, and we're not vote again. We're not voting again. We need some attention.
The sentiments throughout Alligator Pond district in Manchester. The group demonstrated on Monday, mere hours after JLP leader Prime Minister Andrew Holness indicated that the general elections may be called soon. But several restaurant operators say they have been seeing fewer and fewer customers because of the condition of the roads.
And we can't have that. We can't have that. Because look here, the people them is going to come and turn back because the road cannot pass. It's not possible. You understand me? They're turning back from here.
Public transport operators are also complaining.
And it a mash up the front end, plus tire, everything, parts, car, bike, bus, a fair fix bus right through. So we just want to get everything corporate and hear how the road is sort out. Because they say money grant for road. And we don't hear nothing more from that. So we want to know what's going on, you know. You understand?
They say for decades they have been getting promises from their representatives about fixing the roadway. But to date, nothing has happened. They say they reached out for answers earlier this month.
We talked to the council about the road and him said the road I go sort out Monday gone. That's last week Monday. So we leave it because we did plan for block it from that time. But him said the road I go sort out, so me not see nothing more. So we plan this morning now to block off the road for hear what's going on.
In addition to the protest action, they are warning that they will make their voices heard through the ballots when that time comes around.
So Mr. Stewart, if you are listening, are you going to listen? You better reach yourself.
We're tired of this, and we're not vote again. We're not voting again. We need some attention. Right now, or never.
The president of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Keith Duncan, has urged banks to make it easier for small business operators to access loans. He reasons it's not difficult and pointed to a practice where banks offer low-interest loans to its staff. Mr. Duncan was speaking on Monday at a PSOJ and Jamaica Bankers Association workshop in Kingston. The aim of the forum was to, among other things, identify issues in the banking sector that may be hindering growth in Jamaica. For the businessman, entrepreneurs are more willing to invest now. However, a main hindrance is the limited access to capital. Therefore, he feels it's up to the banks to help entrepreneurs take their business from small to medium and large scales.
Why can we, the banks, only lend money to my employees as a small business person to finance their car loans, but you're not lending me, the small business, who is paying this employee?
Changes are coming for vendors in Maypen, Clarendon for the upcoming holiday period. That's the word from head of the Clarendon Police, Senior Superintendent Glenford Miller. SSP Miller says the new changes will be announced soon and all vendors are expected to comply.
We are actually selecting some designated locations where the vendors can actually sell their wares. And there are 2 locations that have already been selected. And this will actually be published in short order. So all vendors will be notified, but no selling on the street. The street will not be taken over by the vendors. And we're also asking the vendors for their cooperation and support in selling in these designated areas that we actually allotted for them.
He says since the state of emergency, the parish has seen a 68% reduction in all crimes, including murder. The SSP says this is because of the support police officers are getting from citizens and the business community.
We are just imploring on the citizens to continue to give us the support and the cooperation, because we, by doing what we're doing, is just trying to make you safe. And we want all residents of Clarendon and persons traversing through Clarendon to have a very Merry Christmas and a peaceful year for the rest of 2019.
Meanwhile, there's a call for law-abiding citizens to help the police in their fight against crime. It comes from the Police Federation Chairman, Detective Sergeant Patrick Rowe. His appeal follows the circulation of several videos in which police officers are seen in physical altercation with members of the public.
You assist the police officers to carry out their duty where you see the police officers are in need of some support. It is time for law-abiding Jamaicans to stand with law enforcement officers so that we can have a safer Jamaica. Thank you.
Sergeant Rowe contends that officers have been reluctant to use force for fear of prosecution. And we take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More when we return. Welcome back, continuing the news. 4 persons were hospitalized following a motor vehicle crash in the vicinity of the Royalton Hotel in Trelawney on Monday. It's reported that the driver lost control of the motor vehicle, which careened from the road before flipping over. The area has been labeled a crash hotspot and again raises concerns about how motorists use the roadway. Of the 4 persons, a woman appeared to be the most seriously hurt. The injured persons were assisted by passers-by as well as a crew from the Falmouth Fire Department. They, however, had to improvise using a piece of plyboard to hoist the injured into the ambulance.
I'm a medical doctor by profession, so I just simply stopped to give some humanitarian help. 4 persons were injured apparently, and they skidded off the road. This road is very famous, they told me, for accidents of this nature. When the road is wet, it's very slippery, and so I suppose that was one of the factors that contributed to their running off the road. 2 seem to be very ill, are very injured, and 2 others stable. So we just send them off with the ambulance from the hospital in Falmouth, and we're hoping for the best.
There's a call for an end to violence against the nation's children. On Friday, teachers and students from Morant Bay High School in St. Thomas took to the streets to voice concerns about repeated cases of abuse being meted out to children. coordinator of the march, Claudia Johnson, says the aim is to encourage more children to break the silence and speak up about issues affecting them.
Because what happens sometimes is that within the classroom, they see things happening and they do nothing. And we are aware that even in the parish, in their communities, they are either a victim of violence or their friends or their neighbor go through these things. So we wanted them to actually start the conversation so that we can talk to them on the issues, so we can help them to help themselves within the school community or even to help their friends within the community.
Ms. Johnson also wants to see more schools coming on board to join the cause.
I saw a lady actually crying, saying that look at the children crying out. Who is joining them in this process? So I believe if we start the conversation, something will happen. And I'm just hoping that as we ask the questions, as they ask the questions of their parents, and all stakeholders continue the conversation, then something must give.
And it's time now for a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we look at pancreatic cancer.
So by the time it's found and diagnosed, it's usually spread throughout the person's body, and it may not be surgically operable. And so what you're then doing is maybe some simple chemotherapy may help, or mostly what people need is what we call palliative care. So keeping them comfortable, because a majority of people will not live more than a year with pancreatic cancer.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. Eat small, frequent meals throughout the day. Stay hydrated. Be observant of changes in bowel habits. And eat a variety of fruits and vegetables.
We go now to news from the region. At least 16 people have died so far this year in Trinidad and Tobago as health authorities embark on a major influenza vaccination drive. The Twin Islands Health Ministry reported on Friday that the number of suspected cases for the flu season had reached 2,738. It also said the number of vaccines administered to the public so far was a little more than 16,000. Children and people with chronic medical conditions should be among those getting the vaccine. Meanwhile, Jamaica's health ministry on Monday urged persons to take the necessary precautions to protect themselves as the country is in its flu season. The ministry said flu cases in Jamaica often begin to increase in October to November, peak between December to March, and can last as late as May. Still in the region, in Dominica, the police have banned motorcades as campaigning intensifies for the December 6th general election. The Dominica Labour Party and the opposition United Workers' Party applied to have motorcades on Sunday, but Police Commissioner Daniel Carbon is concerned about security and has prohibited the activities. The decision follows last week's incident in which protesters removed police barricades and gathered outside the residence of President Charles Savarin, demanding electoral reform. The police used tear gas to disperse the crowd. And we go now to news in sports. 12 wickets fell on the opening day of the one-off test between the West Indies and Afghanistan, with the Caribbean men 68 for 2 at stumps after dismissing the host for 187. Javed Ahmadi top scored for the host with 39, with Amir Hamza 34 and Afsarza Zay 32 also getting starts. Off-spinner Rakeem Cornwall was the pick of the Windies bowlers with career best figures of 7 for 75, while captain Jason Holder ended with 2 for 22. Now Jamaican John Campbell 30 and Shamara Brooks 19 will resume for the West Indies on day 2, with Craig Brathwaite 11 and Shea Hope 7 the wickets so far. And that's the midday news. I'm Herman Green. Please join us at 7 for the prime time news package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.